In this video, we'd like to show a few of the integrations that we put into the Barracuda Virtual Reactor GUI to make it really easy to get into the Tecplot for Barracuda GUI for looking at setup and post-processing. The first point that we want to look at here is our setup grid window. And there's a number of things here. Any of these icons that have a little geometry icon next to them are connected to the Tecplot GUI. So here I'll just click on View Grid and bring that up. These will show you a three-dimensional view of your geometry with the grid as this view. You can also look at transparent model, your CAD. You can compare the grid to CAD. So here what I'm doing is I'm just double-clicking on these options in the quick macro panel. So these are the same ones that you can see from the Barracuda GUI. The other thing here in the setup grid window is the check grid button. So when you are defining your computational grid, you can click on that button and it brings up Tecplot in a XY line plotting mode. And so here we can see the uniformity of our grid and adjust it if necessary. Another place that you'll see integration is in the base materials editors. So here, if I look at the definition for carbon dioxide as an example, a lot of our material properties are defined as polynomials with respect to temperature. And so you'll see a plot button in all of these dialogues. And if you click that, this brings up Tecplot and it shows you your material property versus temperature curve. And so that can be really useful for verifying that your properties are defined correctly. The next place I want to point out is in the SFF Editor dialog. Within Barracuda, SFF files are used for anything that's a tabular format for input. So this is an example. It's a particle size distribution where you have cumulative mass percent versus particle diameter. Other SFF files can be used throughout the GUI to define time-dependent boundary conditions, for example, pressure BCs, flow BCs, things like that that change with time. So the SFF editor always has a graph button here. So I'm going to go ahead and click that. And what we'll see is that brings up a plot to show us what our tabular data looks like visually. The next place that I want to point out is in the run window. So once you've run your solver for either one time step or if you click run solver to do a full simulation, then you can start using these buttons to check your setup. So here I'm just going to go and launch the boundary conditions button. This is a really common one that Barracuda users tend to look at a lot. So here by convention we have flow boundary conditions are red, pressure boundary conditions are yellow. Other boundary conditions like injection BCs have different symbols. So this is a way to see if your simulation is set up the way that you intend. Again, if you use the quick macro panel, here we're looking at boundary conditions. If I double click on these other items, I can look at my flux planes, my data points, my initial particle positions within the system. So that's a good way to check your setup. Finally, in the PostRun window, there's a couple things you can do here. One is if you click on this button that simply says Post Processor, this will open up the Tecplot for Barracuda GUI in a totally blank mode, so there's no data loaded at all. You can manually load your data as you want and work with it from there if you don't want to use one of those preset up views. The other group box here is View Results. And so with these, you have a lot of pre-set up views that are very useful for looking at particle data or instantaneous cell data or time average cell data. So those are all pre-set up views that are available. Here I'll just use cells colored by pressure as an example. So if we open this, you'll see the first time step is brought up, which is time 0. You can use the time slider over here to navigate to different points in the simulation time. You can hit the play button and have Tecplot for Barracuda just play through that. Or you can use this skip to end button to go to the very last time step. So there you have it. Those are the built-in buttons in the Barracuda GUI that can easily get you into the Tecplot GUI.